Rules Update 2021. Overview. Every year we carry out a review of some part of the game looking to see what we can improve. Although that process has been slowed this year, we've still been working on some important updates. This page summarises and explains the changes so that players can identify and understand the changes easily. We try to include a section after each update to explain the reasoning behind the change, as well as providing an in-character rationale for what has changed. Scaling back the public auction. We've taken the decision to stop doing the public auction of mana, herbs, ingots and measures twice an event. From this winter solstice, there will be only one auction conducted by the civil service. It'll take place on Saturday. The auction will start with shipments of bourse materials, which are mithril, white granite, weirwood and ilium, proceed to the bourse seats themselves, and then conclude with the auction of the prosperity dose of true liao. There won't be any herbs, crystal mana or artisan materials sold, and players will not be able to add their own lots to the auction. Reasoning. One of our original reasons for running the public auction was to ensure that there was a good supply of different materials into the game, but as the game has progressed, that need has reduced. Players already bring many thousands of mana crystals, ingots, herbs, etc. to Anvil every event. We want to emphasise the elements of the game where players trade resources with each other rather than buying them from game organisers. If we stop running an auction, we hope that it'll make it much easier for players to promote their own auction houses and other avenues for trade should they wish to do so. As PD, we're able to run a large, well-advertised public auction where everyone can be as confident as possible that everything is above board and honest, because it's being run by PD. We'd much rather have competing outfits with player characters making profits from running them and having to establish their own credentials. IC explanation. The IC explanation for this decision is that the civil service has re-examined their responsibilities following recent in-character discussion of the role of the public auction. They've elected to focus on the things they are legally mandated to provide for the benefit of the Empire, the bourse seat auction and related, and to drop the peripheral activities that they've taken on. We have taken the decision to drop the public auction of player lots and minor resources for out-of-character game design reasons. We will provide a win of fortune that develops the current political situation regarding the sale of bourse materials on the public auction and present some IC developments for players to consider. But we wanted to cleanly separate the in-character elements from the out-of-character elements. Urizen culture. We've overhauled the look and feel guide for Urizen, changed the election system for the nation and created new pages for every single Urizen archetype, presenting detailed information on the background and ideology for each one. As part of that, we've updated almost every Urizen page to add new information and content. A key part of the overhaul is to the look and feel page, where we've refined existing information to try and provide a much more thorough guidance on the ideal costume. The new look and feel page provides much more guidance, including technical advice on colour schemes, fabrics, and the links to help people to create fantastic Urizen costumes for their characters. It also provides explicit guidance on what garments and props are less appropriate and what are inappropriate, using the terminology developed on the new main page on costume on the wiki. We've added explicit guidance asking players to avoid Asian and East Asian visuals as they are not part of the original brief for Urizen. The purpose of the changes is to add greater emphasis to the original classical European cultural influences for Urizen and to be more explicit that the nation isn't inspired by Asian culture. The costume for Urizen is inspired by familiar depictions of high elves, many of which are influenced by Asian garments and styles, but we've updated the look and feel page to make those influences clearer, but be explicit that players should avoid adopting a costume that is unmistakably Asian in look. Consultation. Previously, when we've updated part of the game, we've carried out limited consultation with a small number of players before publishing the new rules. On this occasion, we decided to adopt a different approach. Rather than consult with a hand-picked group, we wanted to present the new changes for consultation with everyone. As a result, the new pages have all been stubbed, indicating that they may be subject to some changes after the consultation period. You're welcome to email us and give us your views on them. We're always happy to discuss any part of Empire with anyone who plays our game at any time. However, the feedback that will be most useful to us is anything that identifies clear conflicts with the established material or which provides fresh insight to the game on the field. In a couple of weeks' time, we will review all the feedback we've received and make changes as appropriate. We'll then remove the stubs to indicate that the changes have been finalised. Reasoning. Urizen represents a pinnacle of enlightenment in the Empire, a land where reason, excellence, and study are universally admired. We used a number of Greek terms like arit or arete to emphasise the underlying classical inspiration, and combined with that imagery and ideas from games like Ars Magica and High Elves from several different fantasy settings. We tried to steer players away from Asian and East Asian influences by being explicit that Urizen was not a land of martial artists. Over time, it became clear that this guidance was too ambiguous. Many people, players and crew alike, assumed that Asian cultural inspirations were a good fit for Urizen and that a clearly Asian costume was ideal. I want to stress that there's no criticism from us of any players over this. The mistake here is very much ours for not realising ahead of time where players might take this and thus failing to be explicit that we wanted people to avoid that. The update is about returning Urizen to its original inspiration. The new pages and archetypes aim to do that, partly by emphasising some of the inspirational figures in Urizen's history, their equivalent of Socrates, Pythagoras, Plato and Aristotle. Urizen contains some of the greatest minds and greatest magicians the Empire has ever known, and we wanted the background material we provided to reinforce that fact. The existing material for the Urizen archetypes was very superficial, so we've created 10 new pages presenting each archetype in a greater depth and detail. The aim is to provide more background, more role-playing hooks, and more in-character goals for people playing them. As part of the update, we've completely overhauled the look and feel page to provide more detailed and thorough guidance on the ideal costume for Urizen. To keep the focus on the original inspirations for the nation, we've been explicit that having a completely Asian and East Asian costume is less appropriate for Empire. We've also called out specific costume elements that are inappropriate, in line with the more general update to the costume guide. The goal here is to sharpen the focus of the Urizen look and feel guide, provide better technical advice to players looking to buy or make costume, and to reduce the opportunities to inadvertently present harmful stereotypes. Adjustment. If you feel your current archetype no longer suits your character or that you'd rather adopt a new archetype, then you can email us with the archetype you'd like to have and we'll update your character record. Urizen elections. As part of our general overhaul of the Urizen pages, we've specifically changed the way that the nations appoint senators. You can find the details further on the wiki, but there are 3 core changes. Every Urizen citizen with the magician skill can now vote for a senator, and each one has a single vote regardless of ritual law. Participations in the elections is no longer limited by home territory, and we've introduced the demos, a more structured form of debate that allows Urizenis to highlight the issues they think are the most important.